I love you so very much. Thank you. Thank you for being so kind to me.
Moments holding your hand, writing words in the sand. When they wash away, something will stay. You are always by my side. Summer days will turn cold, all the leaves fade to gold. The season may change, but one thing remains. You are always by my side. You hold me high up and see me through lows. When I need someone, I know where to go. In my darkest hours, you're the light that I follow. You are always by my side. Days may pass into years, things we know disappear. We lose and we gain, but one thing remains. You are always by my side. You hold me high up and see me through lows. When I need someone, I know where to go. In my darkest hours, you're the light that I follow. You are always by my side.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for being here. One of the reasons why we decided to do this is because my nephew is getting married at this very moment in Maine at the exact same time at 4 p.m. and Frank and I could not make it there, and our family's all there, so we figured, hey, we'll have our own celebration. So that's what we're doing. So thank you very much. And we don't have an officiant this time. We decided to do it our own way. And some of you were here the first time 12 years ago when we got married in the we got married on David Mole's Labyrinth in Roberts Creek, and so that's why I brought the labyrinth right here to sort of symbolize that experience. So anyway, like I said, welcome everybody. So I'm going to start with a reading from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist master, and it's from his book How to Love. When you love someone, you have to trust and have confidence. Love without trust is not yet love. Of course, first you have to have trust, respect, and confidence in yourself. Trust that you have a good and compassionate nature. You are part of the universe. You are made of stars. When you look at your loved one, you see that he or she is also made of stars and carries eternity inside. Looking in this way, we naturally feel reverence. True love cannot be without trust and respect for oneself and for the other person. The second element of true love is compassion. Compassion is the capacity to understand the suffering in oneself and in the other person. If you understand your own suffering, you can help him or her to understand their suffering. Understanding suffering brings compassion and relief. You can transform your own suffering and help transform the suffering of the other person with the practice of mindfulness and looking deeply. when Frank and I got married the first time, I actually had these handkerchiefs.
No, it was the second time.
that have our names and date on it, and I have never used them once, but I figured today I was probably going to be doing a lot of crying, so I'm going to be using it. So I also brought, if anybody needs to, there's Kleenex there and there too. So on the back of your program, there's a mandala here, which we are all familiar with in the Creek symbols. And this one is actually from a book that Frank gave me, called Natural Mandalas. So thanks. So I wanted to read what it says here. So if you want to look at the image, it says, "The rose is a mystical symbol of the heart, the hub of the cosmic wheel. However, in many traditions, the red rose also denotes sacrifice, as the redness conjures up an image of blood, while the beauty of the enfolded petals suggests the love that has inspired such selflessness." So it invites you to look at the square and the equal-armed cross, which is that sort of T-shaped symbol, whose elements represent the created cosmos. Surrounding this is the circle, a symbol of spiritual perfection. Imagine the intersection of the cross behind the flower, suggesting the four cardinal directions and the incarnation of spirit in the material world. The cross supports the rose, whose flowering transcends it. Look at the rose within its border of surrounding leaves. The flower is both our loss and our gain. In living our lives within nature's endless cycles, we experience the glorious flowering of the soul. Lose yourself in the petals. The self is annihilated in the flowering of love within the heart. Take the rose into your inner self and let it bloom in a burst of spiritual intensity. And then the quote from Rilke, "Rose, we are your coronation, the infinite concordance of spirit unfolding." So our wedding we called Circle of Life ceremony, and so this is Circle of Life 2 ceremony, our renewal of vows. So I'll read something from Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, and then I'll pass it over to Frank.
I didn't know you were going to read that.
Yes, so...
because there's well,
Okay.
we'll get there.
Okay, anyway, when you love someone, you do not love them all the time, in exactly the same way, from moment to moment. It is an impossibility. It is even a lie to pretend to. And yet this is exactly what most of us demand. We have so little faith in the ebb and flow of life, of love, of relationships. We leap at the flow of the tide and resist in terror its ebb. We are afraid it will never return. We insist on permanency, on duration, on continuity, when the only continuity possible in life as in love is in growth, in fluidity. I knew this was going to happen. In freedom, in the sense that the dancers are free, barely touching as they pass, but partners in the same pattern. The only real security is not in owning or possessing, not in demanding or expecting, not in hoping even. Security in a relationship lies neither in looking back to what was in nostalgia, nor forward to what it might be in dread or anticipation, but living in the present relationship and accepting it as it is now. Relationships must be like islands. One must accept them for what they are here and now, within their limits. Islands, surrounded and interrupted by the sea, and continually visited and abandoned by the tides.
I wanted to thank Heather for putting this together at the outset. I'm at this point pretty useless, and she has done all of this with a bunch of friends. Thank you very much. It's so gratifying. to know that there are people like you on this earth. Because every day we see examples of the opposite. Anyway, um, it's long been the privilege of old and dying men to tell stories. I promised Heather I would not speechify, which is my inclination, is to talk endlessly, which I can do. There's some things I'd like to, but I'm just going to tell you a brief story, and that segues into something I've learned about love. Uh, Heather and I met at a very early age. She was 5 months old, and I was 5 years old. And that was on the shore of Lake Ontario, and she was a brand new little orange-haired kid. I held her in my arms and I fell in love with her right there. I mean, it was just wham, bang, boom. I really fell for it. And our families, well, we were related as cousins, even though I'm an adopted kid. But our two families, mine in New York and hers in Toronto, shared all sorts of celebrations, Easter, Christmas, family reunions, because we're all related. Pretty much everybody's gone now, but leaving us. But Heather and we not drifted apart, but I hadn't seen her for a very long time, and I was up in Toronto staying at her house. And I saw her for the first time when she was I think she was 15 or 16. And just like the chemistry, the beauty, and she was just such a pain in the ass. And so I went and did my thing. I can't remember what I was doing, something in Toronto. And she went to school, and then I flew back to New York. And then our next real meeting, other than some family stuff, was in Marblehead, Massachusetts, where I lived for 36 years, and where my brother also lives. And Heather was working for a group called the Quebec Labrador Foundation, and they had an environmental arm in Ipswich, Massachusetts, right next door. So I got a call from my brother, who works for the EPA of all things, and he said, "Guess who's here?" I said, I can't guess who's here. We live in the chairs? Oh yeah, okay, great. Steve, come on in. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. He said, "Hi Terry." So my brother said to me on the phone, I'm at my office, which is about 4 blocks away in Marblehead, and he said, "Guess who's here?" I said, "Who?" He said, "Heather Kahn's visiting. She's doing a gig up in Ipswich." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, come on by. It's lunchtime. We can go out for lunch or do something." And so I locked the door of my office, ran over. There she was. And I'd seen her in a long time, like over a decade. And it was there. The chemistry was so intense that after about 10 minutes, I said, "I have to go."
Yeah. I remember that because I remember thinking it was really strange because we were all talking and getting along really well. We were going to go for dinner, and then Frank just abruptly said, "I'm leaving," and I was thinking, that's kind of strange.
I couldn't deal with it. It was like overwhelming. I had a miserable first marriage, but anyway. So
that's another story.
That's another. We're not going there. So that was a reminder that she was out there, and we actually got together when my dad died. And Heather wrote me a note, and we corresponded for quite a while. And I came out to visit her, and here, and it was obvious that this was going to end up where it is. And I spent 12 years, the best 12 years of my life, by like many, 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 many miles. But I learned something really important through Heather, with Heather, and it brings up the scalded metaphor of the tides that Anne Morrow Lindbergh just was quoted on. I'm sure all of you know what the tides are: the flood tide, the ebb tide, and the so-called still standing or slack tide. And most of us spend, because we're scared of the ebb and we're scared of the flow, most of us spend a lot of time trying to stay in the slack, trying to control life, and it doesn't work. And the metaphor is perfect because there's no such thing as slack tide. Slack water does not exist. When the tide comes in, when it floods and stops, it immediately, unmeasurable, small period of time, turns around and becomes an ebb tide. And people spend their lives trying to find a way into that still point in between. It's actually at the ends of the tides, so that they can manage their lives. Well, Heather right away brought it to my attention that, without going into the metaphor, that wasn't going to work, and there was something much better, and there is something much better, and that is to forget about the slack tide and ride the flood, ride the ebb. That's where the adventure and the love are. And it's the kind of love that has absolutely no restrictions, no ends, nothing. And that's something that Heather and I have given to myself, the realization of that metaphor, which I think is beautiful. For me, anything having to do with the tidal plains and water is part of my soul. I love you so very much. Thank you. Thank you for being so kind to me. So that's the end of my little story. There's a longer version. Anyway.
Thank you.
So what's next?
Okay, well, some of you picked a little quotation when you entered in there, so I'd like us to go around and read them one by one. So, Stephanie, would you like to start?
And this is from Thich Nhat Hanh. When you're in a loving relationship, you and the other person can be a true home for each other.
David?
This is from Plato. Every heart sings a song incomplete until another heart whispers back.
This is from Nikki Giovanni. We love because it's the only true adventure.
Thoreau, there is no remedy for love but to love more.
Joseph Campbell, love is a friendship set to music.
Thich Nhat Hanh, the roots of a lasting relationship are mindfulness, deep listening, and loving speech, and a strong community to support you.
Something I've needed in my life for a while now, which is comedy. From Jack Benny. My wife Mary and I have been married for 47 years, and not once have we had an argument serious enough to consider divorce. Murder, yes. Divorce, never. Thanks.
Okay, Deborah?
Love is a lot like a backache. It doesn't show up on x-rays, but you know it's there. George Burns.
That's great.
There are no monuments dedicated to me, and my name will soon be forgotten. But I've loved another with all my heart and soul. And to me, this has always been
Dr. Zeus, you know you're in love when you can't fall asleep because reality is finally better than your dream.
To love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love. To know how to love someone, we have to understand them. To understand, we need to listen.
Joanne Woodward, to be married to a man who makes you laugh every day, now that's a real treat.
Ask yourself, who can I make smile this morning? This is the art of creating happiness.
In a marriage, you're promising to care about everything. The good things, the bad things, the terrible things, the mundane things. All of it, all of the time, every day. Susan Sarandon.
A true partner or friend is one who encourages you to look deep inside yourself for the beauty and love you've been seeking. Thich Nhat Hanh.
Love doesn't make the world go round. Love is what makes the ride worthwhile. Elizabeth Brown.
By Andre Malraux. A happy marriage is a long conversation that always seems too short.
Okay. And this is one from Ursula Le Guin, who I actually interviewed years ago. She's a really amazing woman. Love doesn't just sit there like a stone. It has to be made like bread, remade all the time, made new. So anyway, thank you for sharing those. As you probably know, I'm really into the rituals, and so one thing that we're going to do now, when it was solstice, I went to the lovely solstice ceremony that was held at Roberts Creek Hall that Stephanie and David were involved in organizing. And one of the things there was they gave everybody a seed bomb. And I mean, I have no idea what's in them or anything, and which I guess is part of the joy of it, dealing with the unknown. You have no idea what's going to grow. And I had planned to have us plant these on Earth Day, but it didn't work out. So instead I thought, okay, well, we'll do it. Okay, so I'm going to give one to you, and then we'll just put them in here. Do you know what seeds are in here?
I believe they have lupins and calendula.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. Well, anyway, so we're going to put some in there, and we'll water it. And the soil in here is actually, half of it is compost from our garden, too. So. Yeah. That also makes me think of the symbolism of the lotus in Buddhism, where they say the roots start out in the muck and all the darkness that you can't see under the surface. And then to get the beautiful flower to come out and blossom, you need that combination. So we'll see what comes out of this. So anyway, well, now we're going to do our vows. And what I decided to do was basically repeat the same vows that we did the first time, but I've added a paragraph to that. So I think I'll start with that new paragraph, and then I'll read the old vows. So at the beginning of this year, before we received Frank's diagnosis, I decided to make compassionate calm my goal for 2018. Many times since, I have fallen far short with emotional meltdowns, vented anger, resentment, frustration, impatience, and grief. At times I have wanted to leave, but I'm still here. Despite all the challenges in the last year, I am grateful for this opportunity to experience in my own hugely flawed way the gifts of unconditional love. Selflessness does not come naturally to me, and this has been a long journey. Caring for Frank has brought me closer to my higher self. It has enabled me to practice a slower, more attentive, and generous love. Together, he and I have received tremendous love from the community, friends and neighbors, and some family members. This path and union of love is one I chose to share with Frank 12 years ago. I am deeply grateful that we are still following it now, every day, side by side, as devoted partners and daily travelers in pain, wonder, and discovery. The phrase "in sickness and in health" is so much more than a wedding cliche. It is a demanding but glorious way of being. Thank you, Frank, for drawing me closer to my heart and yours. Okay, so now the repeat. Okay. Sweetheart, it was a joy to discover the beauty of your soul and spirit as we slowly got to know one another. I was amazed at how many interests we shared, how much I anticipated your daily emails, how delighted I was to share in your humor, intellect, kindness, and caring, your sensitivity and vulnerability, your strength of character, openness, understanding, and selflessness. I admired your deep sense of service, your politics, humility, and heartfelt values. I still do. Your open heart and willingness to share any and everything have touched me deeply. As I have said many times, you are a rare man. When we met for the first time after almost 20 years, it felt as if we had been together all our lives. I have never felt so at ease with anyone, so loved by any man. I have never laughed so much and so often with any man. We talked about marriage the first week we were together, something I thought I would never do with anyone. Today I feel deeply honored and blessed to know that we will share love and partnership for the rest of our lives. I commit to supporting your highest potential, to honoring and loving your whole being, your divine essence, your higher self, and your shadow self. I commit to cherishing your spiritual growth and path to self-awareness in whatever form that might take. I commit to standing by you no matter what challenges we face. I am ready to embrace the unknown with you. I look forward to great adventures, joy, fun, and the fulfillment of many individual and mutual dreams. I will ask for grace, patience, and acceptance to guide me through the times when I feel anger, fear, resentment, or harsh judgments. Frank, your unconditional love is the greatest gift I have ever received. I have never met or loved anyone like you. You lift my heart, body, and soul into blissful flight. You are my wings, my sky, my earth, my partner in the infinite potential of love and life. May we soar aloft together. Love, fly on.
Is that it? I guess that's my turn. And when we got married and gave our vows at David's beautiful property, I said many of the same things. The most important being to support Heather in every way that I could, professionally, emotionally, And that has really worked out. But now I can't do that as much. I can't demonstrate my affection for Heather by getting anything done. I can report on what's happening on CNN. She doesn't have time to watch it. It's kind of crazy. I'm used to being able to do things all the time, to work, 16 hours a day, and I can't do that. I just don't have the ability, the energy. And that makes me very, very sad. But I'm totally committed to Heather, and I want to support you in everything you do. I want to, for the rest of my life, to ride the flow and the ebb and continue to find the adventure and romance and love that we have for the last 12 years. And I have to say that even since I got sick, that hasn't changed. We do things that you would be surprised about. We really are together, and it's true. I make her laugh. I make everybody laugh, but and she makes me laugh. And we share a great deal. So I'm not going to repeat all of the vows that I made the first time, but I have a couple of interesting ones. One is that I want to be as supportive as possible of you in your new role as caretaker for Frank, the crankiest guy on earth, and to work as hard as I can to lessen the burdens on you. That's sort of magical thinking in a way, because I really don't have the ability to do very much. Make a sandwich, and that's about it. And other things I can write. My brain works. For a while it didn't. I had the chief psychiatrist at the hospital believing that I thought that all the clocks were going different directions and wrong. But everything that I have been able to give to Heather, I want to continue and will continue to, as long as I can, to do the same thing. This is where it gets hard. I promise that I will go quietly as possible. But part of me wants to yell and scream. I can't leave her. But I know I have to. It's really hard to completely lose control, and to the knowledge that this beautiful thing will not end, but will continue in a different way, and I fully expect that it will. It's my intention to, I know this is going to sound really strange, but it's my intention to, after parting the corporeal world, to explore the cosmos. And I intend to do that. And I know that I don't really intend to do that, but that's part of who I am. And I've been doing that all my life. Exploring and doing that. And all I can say, honey, is that when I'm riding around on the Cosmos Mariner, I will have a weather eye out for you. And only you. That's it.
Okay. Well, we originally, when our wedding, had a exchange of rings, but because we already have rings, we're not doing that. The rings we actually had made were by Coast Salish artist David Neal, who's on the North Shore, and they represent the four elements. And anyway, I can't take mine off, so even if I wanted to give it to Frank, and Frank's won't stay on his finger, so anyway, so what we decided to do instead, some of you know that I do a practice called Soul Collage. I'm a trained facilitator in it, and so a month or so ago, or a few months ago, I asked, because Frank has taken about 5 of my workshop, he's familiar with the process, so I said, why don't we do a Soul Collage card together to represent us? So he was lying on the couch, I gave him some magazines to go through, and he tore out just one image, and it was of these flames, and I've actually got the card as it fell over, but it's on that table there if you want to look at it afterwards. And so I picked out some of the images from our wedding and put them all together and made this collage. So what we've done is I got artist Yvonne Muncy, who's in Roberts Creek, you might be familiar with. She makes takes images and puts them on different, like dynamos, and I mean, what do you call them? Anyway, so I thought it was ironic that I took the Soul Collage image that we did of the card, and she's put them on here, and the actual green thing that it's on is a vintage poker chip, which I thought was kind of an interesting metaphor, because to me it represents, like abundance and risk and everything else, so that was kind of appropriate. So anyway, so I'm going to put this on Frank.
Thank you. Watch out for your glasses, too.
Thank you. So, for us closing, I'd like us to, we can practice, there's a song, and we sing it in our meditation group, so some of you will be familiar with it. To just practice it before we do it, I'll do two lines, and then you can, it's from Thich Nhat Hanh's Plum Village in France, his retreat center there. It's called No Coming, No Going. Okay, so no coming, no going, no after, no before. So do you want to practice that? So, okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, no coming, no going, no after, no before. Okay, I hold you close to me, I release you to be free. Okay, so I hold you close to me, I release you to be free. Okay, because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me. Okay, so let's all sing it all together then. Okay, 1, 2, 3. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me, I release you to be free, because I am in you, and you are in me, because I am in you, and you are in me. Okay, well, I had hoped to get everybody in a circle, but we can't do that in this space, I don't think. But one thing I'd like, if possible, afterwards, is if we could get in there and try and take a group picture of everybody. I'd like that. But after that, we've got champagne here, or do you want to do the champagne first and then do that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do the champagne first, and then I invite people, if you want to share hugs, if you want to do toasts, that's fine. And we're going to have some food put here with buffet service. We'll move stuff out of the way here, and please watch your step here. It's a drop. there. And I invite you to sign our guest book. We have a little booklet right on the edge of the table there. I really like it if you guys would sign that. And as we did with our wedding, if you feel like blowing any bubbles, we've got bubbles here. I did have sparklers at the wedding, but because of the fire hazard, I thought, no, better not do that. So, and I've got some of our photos, books from our wedding, if you want to take a look through those. And we will be serving cake too, so please hang around and relax. And I'd like to a few thank yous to Annie for helping out with everything, and my friends Terry and Andre, and they also helped a lot with setup, and with Patrina for smudging, and she took the photo on the program, and to Arthur for taking the pictures, to David Mole for making the cake, and to Stephanie Mole for arranging its decoration, and then to Nomadic Kitchen for the refreshments.
Moments holding your hand, writing words in the sand. When they wash away, something will stay. You are always by my side. Summer days will turn cold. All the leaves fade to gold. The season may change, but one thing remains. You are always by my side. You hold me high up and see me through lows. When I need someone, I know where to go. In my darkest hours, you're the light that I follow. You are always by my side.
I recognize you right away
Days may pass into years. Things we know disappear. We lose and we gain, but one thing remains. You are always by my side. You hold me high and see me through. When I need someone, I know where to go. In my darkest hours, you're the light that I follow. You are so close to me. You were there to help me along. You give me love that makes me feel strong. You let me know just where